All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Appreciate you all being here. How many of you knew Tay Diggs was in town? Okay, so I'm not gonna talk about that then since you're here. Tay Diggs is at another event right now. Yeah, I don't know how to do all of that, so if I make a loud noise, I apologize.
Yep.
All right. So again, welcome. This is our District 1 breakfast. Those of you who are new to the breakfast, thank you for being here. We've got a really good agenda going today, and we'll get started with our police department. So for those of you who don't know, we have a new captain over at North Patrol. Captain Moore is here, stuffing his face right now. So we'll get started with him, and then we will go into our transit director and a few other things so you all can meet those folks. So Captain Moore.
Thank you, sir.
Lower the mic a little bit, a lot taller. So those of you that don't know, Councilman Johnson, when he was back 10 years ago, or when he was 10 years old in the 5th grade, over at Buckner Elementary, I was his dare officer. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I'd like to, think that I had something to do, with the part of his life. Been really appreciative. But my name is Lem Moore, L-E-M. For some of you that know the old movie Soul Food, there was a guy named Lem in that. It's short for Lemuel. It's actually in the Bible also. But thank you very much. I moved here to Wichita when I was 16 years of age with my mother, and I've been here for the past 33 years. I have 2 daughters that are grown up. One is in the military. She just got back from Iraq back in May, and she's in Tacoma, Washington, serving in the military. The other one is here in town. She's a dental hygienist. The medical clinic next to the substation, that's where she does nonprofit dental work there, and she's going back for her master's. I served in the United States Marine Corps Reserves, and I joined the police department at age 21. So I've been on the department for about 27 years now, and I'm 49 years old. Currently, I am the Bureau Commander for Patrol North, and which means that all 110 personnel that work at the North Station, I'm responsible for their actions. I'm responsible for the things that they do, and quality control. The best way to be able to assist with quality control is for you all to communicate anything and everything that you believe that the police department needs guidance in. I say guidance because, there's some times where we have missteps, and so we have to guide each other, as far as being able to assist and move forward. So at the same time, if you need guidance on a direction on something, I'm at the Patrol North Station. It's easier to get in touch with me through email. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these stack of cards that I have in my pocket here. I'm gonna leave them back at the back table back there. If you wanna grab one, feel free to grab it. And that way you can get in touch with me. If you have a pen there and you don't wanna take a card, my email, it's pretty simple. It's LMMOORE. So LMMoore@wichita.gov. All right? So that you're able to get in touch with me. I'm gonna go over a few stats for District 1. If I can have a little bit of that time, is it okay to go over that? Okay. Go over statistics for homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault. For those of you that were in attendance at the meeting the other night, Thursday night, and a lot of these are the exact same statistics. But for the city of Wichita, there are 38 homicides that have occurred. And out of those homicides in District 1, there are 5 of them. So, not even a quarter of them, just less than a quarter, of the homicides that have happened here in District 1. It's still a bad, and serious crime. It's something that we're, trying to fight and battle, but these things occur. Now, out of those 38, 32 of those homicides have been solved or resolved. We know who's done them. We know who've done them, and we've been able to prosecute those. The 32 out of the 38, which is, if you look at numbers for Chicago, Kansas City, Tulsa, our solve rate is a lot better than a lot of those communities that are a little bit larger than us. As far as rapes go, there are 316 rapes in the city of Wichita. In the District 1 area, out of those 316, 80 of those were in District 1. Right? 80 of those rapes. 25 were domestic violence, and 3 were gang related. The robberies that occurred here in the city of Wichita, there are 399 robberies that have occurred. And these dates are as of September 4th. So, obviously we're a couple days into it. But as of September 4th, there are 399 robberies. In the District 1 area, 97 of those were, were in the District 1 area. So that's about a quarter that have occurred of them. So if you're dividing the city up, a quarter have occurred in District 1. Aggravated assaults, which means violent crimes of shootings, stabbings, violent crimes against another individual. In the city total, there's 1,674 to date that have occurred, all right? And so in District 1, out of that 1,674, there's only 466. So there again, it's a quarter of what's happening, so it's pretty consistent with what's happening around the entire city. So for me, we're doing a really good job in my mind for District 1, because if you hear someone say, and this really irks me and it really bothers me, when you hear someone say, there's a lot of crime in that area, just don't go there. Just don't go up there. Well, guess what? There is our community. There, someone lives there. And so instead of saying just don't go there, why don't we say, what can we do to assist to resolve? And that's why I really appreciate Councilman Johnson, because this past Thursday night, he brought the district together, and he was able to have gang members, drug dealers, police officers, and citizens in the same room. And he'll talk a little bit more probably on that, but I was really appreciative of it because it was a really good turnout. And we're going to have more of those. He's going to end up doing more of these. But as far as the police department's perspective, we're going to be a part of each and every event that you have out here. I'm going to attempt to send someone. There are times where we're short-staffed and officers are on calls, but if they can't make it, then guess what? I'm going to try and be there. I just got an email the other day about McAdams Park. There's going to be a movie night in the park, open-air movie night sometime in the future. I'm ready. I'm going to be there. Now, I'm just trying to debate, though, whether I'm going to be in my lawn chair in my uniform or I'm going to be in my lawn chair in my shorts, but I'm going to be there. But that's a report from, Patrol North, and obviously District 1 covers more than Patrol North. I have a wonderful officer that I love mentoring, and you're going to come up here and speak? Do you speak at all? Do you give her stats? All right, I'm going to have Officer Thornton come up here, and he's going to give a report for the other part of District 1 from the police department's perspective. But thank you for your time. I'll leave your cards back there.
Amen.
I'll keep it quick. I'm Officer Steve Thornton, I'm Patrol East, I represent the eastern portion of District 1. Captain gave the majority of our stats already. And so for East, or the eastern portion of District 1, what we've experienced here in past month, is simply our robberies are down, which is great. Ag assaults are down, which is great, but our burglaries are slightly up. Same with larceny from auto. And we're experiencing most of that around Central and Grove, Central Hillside, Central and Oliver area. We have some people of interest, so we're pretty much taking care of that. And again, he stole my thunder by saying a lot of stats. I will say, yeah, he pretty much took it all. One thing we did throughout East, there was a group of officers who raised approximately $3,000 worth of school supplies. They distributed these school supplies to 4 schools, and one of them was, can't say the school, they don't want us to, but it was on North Oliver. Yeah, so there you go. They distribute these school supplies to different schools, and they raised, like I said, this money, I want to say within 4, maybe 5 days. And it was great work on their part, but also the community. And they got a lot of gifts and donations from people from District 1 who are associated with District 1 and who live in District 1. So again, want to thank you guys for helping those little ones out. And that's all I have for our report.
Thank you.
So Patrol North, your station's here, and you're east, so kind of give me some boundaries of what north and east are.
All right, for the south end of the boundaries, at about Central, you go from Central down to the river area, down that area, all the way out to, how far up east?
Woodlawn.
About Woodlawn. And north, you're gonna hit north side. Anything south and east of that is gonna be east side.
And for east portion, we go south. District 1 goes to right at Kellogg in some areas. Kellogg, Hillside.
You started about Oliver or when you started?
For east side, it would be hydraulic.
Hydraulic?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
It's like a maze on the map when you look at it.
District 1 is the largest
Yeah, and she, great point, she said District 1 is the largest district of all the districts, but yet we're at still a quarter of some of the things that are happening. So that's a really good valid point to make, that we're doing a really good job of communicating. I got another thing I wanna, okay, so I'm not the only new person at Patrol North Bureau. I also have a new secretary that will be working with me, so we're both going to be learning and growing together, and it's going to be pretty awesome. I did see some good things when Maya Hagan's interviewed for the position of secretary. We had 5 people that went through, and some people have their their favorites in mind, and then their thought processes. And Maya was the youngest one out of all of them. But by the time she finished that interview, you can tell that she researched, that she planned, that she took the initiative, she took the desire that she had to put in, and found out everything that she could find out about Patrol North and about working for the captain that's up there. And so for me, I don't consider her a secretary. I consider her my right-hand person, when I'm up here working. So if I'm not there, you'll be able to deal with, with Maya and Miss Hagan. So I'm gonna have her stand up in the back there and introduce her.
Yay, Maya!
I appreciate her coming today and being here. That shows the support that she has for being here. Now, next week, real quick, Wednesday night, if you're the Matlock Heights Neighborhood Association and surrounding area, there's only 50 seats, but there were 500 flyers that were sent out on Thursday evening by our community police officers to attend a meeting with the chief at the police academy from 6 to 7 o'clock in the evening. So he's going to just give an update for that area, because we have the 7-month-old that had the ricochet that hit him, and then we have the homicide just 2 blocks up. So that's a focus that we're looking at right now. We plan on having more meetings, but we want to make sure we zero in on the here and now issues that are taking place. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Captain Moore. So yeah, we'll talk about this Thursday meeting a little bit later today. So next up, if you all know, we have a new transit director. When we interviewed our transit directors, we had one person that really stood out, and we hired him. I think it was in May was his first day. So he is here. We had a conversation just about transit throughout the city of Wichita, and he had some goals to improve it, get some feedback from the community as far as how effective it is now, how well the Corps is being serviced. And I invited him here today not only to introduce you all to our new transit director, but so that he could hear from you on ways in which we could improve transit, because he's really interested in that. He's done a great job thus far. So I just want to welcome Michael Tan, who's our new transit director.
Yay!
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to sit up here and talk about how great our statistics are compared to, but unfortunately, there isn't a statistic that Wichita Transit has that I'm proud of, quite frankly, at this point in time. Especially when it comes to the type of service that we're putting on the street for the people that need us the most. Where I came from, which was Pennsylvania, public transit is looked upon as a regional and city asset. It's viewed as a social service agency to a degree, as it provides opportunity for people to get to education, to get to employment. It spurs economic development in areas that otherwise may not have it. It allows senior citizens to be mobile as they become older and less mobile in their own right. Public transportation is supposed to step up and be available. And quite frankly, Wichita Transit has not been that. And we're going to change that. One of the things that I found when I came here last January to interview, of course, like any other community, they show you all the good things. And then when I came back, my wife and I came back in March. We came back again in April, and then I started here on May 7th. I spent a lot of time riding our buses, meeting the people that ride our buses, spending time at the transit center, talking to people on the phone, speaking to our elected officials. I found it to be extremely embarrassing from an organizational standpoint of how well or how poorly we service the low and middle class families of Wichita. We are not viewed as being an organization that presents opportunities. We had no exposure or association with the school district. We had no exposure or association with Wichita State. And I found that to be disturbing, because that, if you go any place else in the country, a vibrant transit department, and it doesn't matter who the affiliation is with, whether it's the city, the county, it's regional, it doesn't matter. All of them have vibrant relationships, especially with the inner city schools. We had none prior to this September, or this August. We started transporting kids from the area of the old Southeast High School to the new Southeast High School. And I'm sure we could debate for 5 hours as to why that school is even out there, but it's there. And I would love to think that that school could have been put closer to where the kids are that are going to that school. But the reality is it isn't there. And our job as public transportation is to make it as easy for the kids and the parents to get to the school and get back. In a fairly decent amount of time, we picked the kids up about an hour later now than what they were picked up last year. Because kids, I was a kid once and I have four kids. I can't even imagine trying to get my kids ready to get on a bus at 6 o'clock in the morning, when school doesn't even start until 8 o'clock. But because of the busing in Wichita and the number of students and the distance that Southeast was, there were kids that were within walking distance of their former high school that had to get up at 6 o'clock, or had to be at the bus stop at 6 o'clock in the morning. So we approached the school district. Again, this is a model that we use out east. I used in Pennsylvania very successfully, and said, what can we do? Now, obviously right now we don't have the assets to just do everything and anything, but I asked the school district to tell us where the problem was, and that was the problem. So as we started meeting with parents and we started meeting with the kids, we started the service the first day of school. The kids thought it was great. You get on one of our buses, there's 40 kids on that bus. They are sitting in air-conditioned comfort. They have Wi-Fi available to them. They love it. And the bus is on time, because that's what we do, is we run a schedule on time. First student is completely inundated with service. I feel sorry for them, I really do. They are 80 drivers short on a daily basis. That's not even including drivers that are off sick. It's gonna be a long, long time before any provider can service, especially the inner city areas. So we started out there. In 2 weeks, we're gonna be doing some work for Northwest, and for Heights. We're also gonna be starting next week some service for a low-income housing area over on Rock, and taking those elementary school kids to, I think it's Minnehaha Elementary School. We're also going to be transporting kids from high schools to trade schools, so that they have an opportunity in order to prepare themselves for their next career. It doesn't always have to be college. And hopefully in January, we'll be announcing, or actually starting to perform service for Wichita State to connect all of their campuses to the people of Wichita. And that will bring, hopefully, buses through these neighborhoods that are dramatically underserviced now. The model that exists for Wichita Transit is not a transit model. That is what you see in a typical city the size of Wichita. You don't see buses that are out on the edges of low-income areas. Buses go into low-income areas. The belief that someone who is of a lower income status is going to walk 6 blocks to a bus, as compared to when it used to be a block from their home, that's wrong. They're just not gonna ride the bus, period. And however those decisions were made back in the, back 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago, whatever it was, it doesn't matter at this point in time. But what I need is community feedback. I mean, you are very, very fortunate to have Brandon as your representative. He cares about what you do, and hopefully someday you'll feel that way about us at Wichita Transit, and I know that's what he wants. So from that standpoint, we need to take advantage of those resources, but it needs community communication. We can complain complain all day about the way that it was and the way that it is, but how do we make it better?
Right.
I was a little disappointed when I got here. Out east, you hear a lot about how neighborhoods are connected. I came to Wichita, I first didn't notice, but everybody says how great it is and how easy it is to get around. And it is, if you're on a highway. But that highway is 55 feet off the ground, and you're doing 70 miles an hour, and you look down and you see neighborhoods down there, and you wonder, who's there? Who lives there? What's it like? I'm sure that design was from the 70s when everybody thought that was when you took that connectivity of people having to drive through neighborhoods to get from point A to point B, you took away a lot of identity and you created areas of blight. We had a kickball tournament from city employees and we were at McAdam Park. Beautiful park. But if you look in any direction, you see a highway going across. And most of those people don't even know that that park is down there. That's not the way it should be. So we need to find a way to get the people of Wichita down to those areas to understand how great they are. It's not a scary place to be. It's someplace we should all want to be. It's not all about Old Town. It's not all about New Market Square. I mean, I'm very disappointed that the Transit Department thought 2 years ago that it was important to get service to New Market Square. Quite frankly, it is our lowest performing route. They all perform bad, but that one is really bad. Does someone believe that there were children and people that lived here that wanted to work out there? That's not where people that live here want to work. They want to work in their neighborhood. They want to contribute back to their neighborhood. They want to go to school in their neighborhoods. They want to see their neighborhoods increase. If there's somebody that lives out on the east side and they have a family, let those kids work at McDonald's on Mays. That's who's working there anyway.
Right.
And nobody needs to, nobody should have to go out, nobody that lives in District 1 should have to go out there to shop.
So right.
There needs to be a model where you can do that here or close to here so that money stays here and the jobs stay here. Because that's another thing that's very important besides the education and the employment side or the economic side is to make these neighborhoods vibrant again, is you get people to use public transit to come here to shop, to come here to live. I can remember when I was a kid growing up, there's no generational ridership in Wichita. When I grew up, my grandmother rode the bus. I'm sure her mother rode the bus. My mother rode the bus. I rode the bus. That was the way that you got around. So if you needed you wanted to go, they used to sell houses in where I came from, and it was a selling point if you were on a bus route. I don't really think that that's the case here in Wichita. And I don't know if in my lifetime that's ever going to change, but I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that that's something that nobody needs to have 3 cars in their family. I'm sorry. You know, there is congestion in Wichita, but we don't need to be driving every place. We need to have public transportation available to people to be able to do that. But people have to be able to get jobs. There's great jobs in this town, and there could be more great jobs in this town. But everybody should have access to those jobs. It shouldn't just be the people that have cars.
Right.
And that's where public transit can really, really help the economy. Because if someone lives here, I have a lot of employees that were born and raised in this district and live in this district. And they are very, very concerned about this district. And when I talk to my drivers, that's the one thing they say is, I am actually embarrassed of what we do or don't do for the community that I live in or used to live in, and my mom lives there now. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be proud of where you work and proud of what that does back for your community, wherever that may be. So we're going to work on that from a number of different areas. So you're going to see some things changing. Hopefully Brandon will have me back sometime and we'll actually be able to spend time just to have a community outreach meeting that deals with nothing but transit, where you can be prepared and come to me with what it is that your wants and needs are. I don't want to inundate Brandon with more work than he already has, but please, use him and use me.
Okay.
My email is mtan@wichita.gov. It doesn't get any easier than that, 2 N's. You can call me anytime. You can stop the transit department at any time. My employees know that that's what I do. I'm not here to worry about all the other stuff that's going on with baseball fields and all that kind of. That's great, but we have a community of transit independent community that isn't dependent on transit. Because transit isn't dependent upon them. We need to bring that back or start it in Wichita. Because if we don't, then we have no one to blame but ourselves at Wichita Transit. But also too, it benefits everything and everybody. And I want to see where we should start. That's what we need as a starting point. Because where we're at now is not the place to start. We need to find out where that starting place is and how we do it. But I can tell you, we are going to be in the schools and we are going to be in the neighborhoods. Again, I don't need to go to a community meeting at 29th and Mays. That community has everything and anything they could possibly want. These communities, District 1 and the other districts here, have problems that we can help solve. We can't solve them all. But yesterday, when a police officer approached me and said, hey, we have a problem. There's 3 police officers that deal with homeless. And they will provide them with bus passes to get to where they need to go to help access services. But they were paying 100% of that cost out of their own pocket. They knew there was a new guy in town, so they stopped and asked and said, hey, is there anything you can do? Well, just like we did for the United Way, just like we did for the Salvation Army, just like we've done for Helping Hands, we've reduced our fares 50%. We did the same thing for the schools. Quite frankly, there should be a lot more free pass programs. To have these officers have to reach into their pocket and pay a full fare for someone that they want to help in a segment of this community that is large, I find to be disgusting from that standpoint. Another thing I don't understand, and I realize there's economics that are involved in it, but I get very agitated from the time I leave my house or when I'm out riding our buses because there's nobody on them. A bus seats 40 people. Why are there 3 people on those buses? And why are we so worried about making sure that everyone that's on that bus pays $1.75? The bus is empty. Fill it up. Not that you give the seats away, but fill the bus up. That's what the federal government wants. They paid for that bus. We didn't pay for it. Fill it up. Once the bus is full, then we'll worry about how much people are paying for it. When you can't transport any more people on a bus and you need to buy another bus, then you start having those discussions. But to do it now when you have 3 people riding on a bus is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So some of these things that we need to correct are going to take a while. But I think as we take, especially these high school, middle school, and elementary kids, and teach them how to ride the bus. It's not a scary thing. It can be a key to freedom, or it can be a key to a job, it can be to a career, to the ability to go to WSU Tech and learn how to be an auto technician, or how to climb an electric pole or work for the electric company. But that's what we need to get to, is how we do that. So again, I'm here, my job is to spend as much time in this community and helping this community get better on a daily basis. But to go back to, just to circle back to my last point, in Pennsylvania, every person 65 and older rides public transportation for free. At Councilwoman's Playcomb meeting 2 weeks ago when I spoke, I mentioned that I found it appalling that we don't have that same program here in Wichita. Funding for transit at the state and federal level one component is based upon the number of people you have on your bus. Senior citizens have paid their taxes in Wichita, in the state of Kansas, in the federal government for decades. If we can provide them with a pass or a ride on public transportation that only costs $1.75, we're adding a whole nother dimension to their life and their ability to be mobile. My personal opinion is that has to happen. That's how we start the process. That our senior citizen ridership is pathetic. You go out east, it's 16 to 17% of the total ridership. Why? Because they use it. They used it when they were young, and they use it now. And those are the kind of programs that get people into buses. I'm hoping that this lower income apartment center, that the gentleman who owns the apartment complex is going to pay for the passes for these kids. because they have to cross busy streets. The people in Wichita are extremely generous. We need to identify the areas that they can be generous to help those types of kids, because they want to work. But if the system says, no, I'm sorry, we can't do anything about that, then he's gonna try to find another way, or he's gonna lose those potential tenants, and maybe they won't be able to go to their neighborhood school. That's what we're supposed to be able to do. Again, we can't correct the problems with Southeast High and where it is, but we can certainly make it easier for those kids to go there. And if that was a problem last year where graduation rates were affected because kids missed the bus at 6 o'clock and couldn't catch another bus because there was no other bus, and we've now corrected that, I think it was in the newspaper the first week I was here. And I just said to myself, we need to find a way to correct that, to start correcting it. And we've done that. So hopefully it'll continue to grow and develop, and we can start to identify those problems. But at the community level, I need all of you, and I need Brandon, and Brandon knows that, to communicate to me how we start the process. How do we start to establish credibility with this district that we truly, truly want to change the livability here, the convenience, the safety, and the fact that it is a vibrant part of Wichita. Wichita is a great town. That's why I moved here. I didn't have to move here. I wanted to move here. And I still want to live here. I still want to be part. I was raised in neighborhoods like this. Both my grandmothers were stay-at-home mothers. My one grandmother was an orphan. My grandfathers were just laborers. One was a truck driver and the other one was a salesman. They didn't have a lot of money, but they lived in nice, clean, safe neighborhoods where everybody knew everybody. And everybody shopped together, and everybody worshiped together. And we need to get back to that. And that's where public transportation can help. There's a key to public transportation that can do that, and that's where we want to go. Thank you.
It's very refreshing to hear what you have to say. I've done transit work from rural America all the way up to the biggest cities in the country. I've done rapid rail stations in Atlanta and Boston and Miami. I did the Central Bus Depot operation in Oklahoma City. My daughter, who was a Harvard graduate, did a study from St. Louis Airport to St. Clair County through East St. Louis, and found out that the bus didn't even stop in the black community. It went straight off through the black community to St. Clair County. St. Clair County paid no taxes. It was the black community that was paying the taxes for the bus, and they weren't even stopping there. So we've been through a whole lot of these things.
One of the things that we did, or I did when I started here, is I took an area of a big room that we had, and I created what I call a war room. But right now, there are about 15 maps on that wall. Now, some of it is for internal, because I was amazed at the disconnect between what we're supposed to do and what we really do within the transit department. But when you look at population densities, and you also look at tax revenue, these communities are generating a great deal, percentage-wise, of the tax base of the city of Wichita. Because you have home upon home upon home upon home upon home, and it's very, very dense. And that's what a city wants. That's where vibrancy becomes. You go out into suburbs, you may not know who lives 2 doors down from you. But in these neighborhoods, you know, and you should know. But you should feel safe enough to walk down the street, too. You should also know, hey, if I buy a house here, I can get to work. I can do what I need to do. But those are the things that the black community, the lower income communities, are the cornerstone of public transportation. And anybody that says that it isn't, and it's also the future of public transportation, anybody says that it isn't, they're lying. And to abandon that is a crime, an absolute crime. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you for your insight. Thank you for wanting to really concentrate on making it a 15-minute ride rather than a 2.5-hour ride. And thank you for your passion, your enthusiasm for coming to Wichita and bringing that with you. And you've already started, so thank you.
Hopefully that will continue, because there isn't anybody that I know of that can manage their life in 2-3 hour increments. I don't care what your income level is, you don't have have that much time in your life to do that. I came from a city that was 1/4 the size of Wichita. We ran buses from 4 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the morning, 6 days a week. We ran 12 hours on Sundays.
That's what we have.
And that's what we need to get to, because that's when it becomes an opportunity for people to use it. Stopping the buses at 6:30 at night and not running on Sundays is not the solution. But we need to find the way to do that. And again, it's a matter of an ask, is what it is. You have to go to the funding sources and ask them. And it's not the the federal government will tell you that's their job, is to protect mass transit in these neighborhoods.
Let's go from the back to the front. Trish?
Just wanted to ask, you've got a lot
I
of
see
community
you.
advocates in the room, and you've asked us to speak up. What is your priority for us to speak up for transit? What would you say, if we're asking something, how can we be pointed and, concerted, and what can we ask for?
Well, one of the reasons that I am being so aggressive with universities and schools is because that is a revenue source. We're not doing it for free. They're paying for it, and they're paying for it willingly. When that money starts to flow in, the question is, what do we want to do with it? What are the priorities of the 3 or 4 districts that are in this area that we call Center Wichita? And how best to do that? It's to establish priorities within those communities. Every community is different, but what is the priority? But the idea is to get the word out. I did something in Pennsylvania that was probably or in Erie, I should say, that was a little unique. But we had a problem back in 2016 where we had 2 major funding sources for local match, which opens the keys for state and federal funding. It was the city and the county. Now, if you had gone back 10 years prior to that date, neither the city or the county would have touched the transit department. But because we had become such an economic driver, we had building construction going on, we had buses, we were providing the service. They were literally fighting for ownership of it. They wanted to control it. And it became a serious, serious problem. It was actually hindering the potential of whether we could continue, because our funding sources were saying, if you don't have a charter, we don't have any vehicle to give the money to. We actually did a voting drive on the buses. And I tell you, when you do something like that, people listen, because every politician and every public official will tell you, people that vote are the people that you listen to. And that's what we need to do. We need to get people to vote, we need to get people to speak, and we need to get people to demand. And that's what a community advocate can do, is how do we mobilize these communities? And again, whether it's senior citizens vote, and senior citizens love free, and they deserve free public transportation. Those are the kind of things, the overarching things that we push for. But in the neighborhoods, it's what this neighborhood needs. Does it need access to jobs outside? Does it need economic development inside? Does it need bus routes that are going by, let's say, businesses that are struggling? We concentrate a lot of service on Douglas and all the little pretty things that are there. But there's a lot of little Douglases, little old towns right here where people should want to go to.
Let me,
Hold on, Mr. McAfee, there's a young lady waiting.
Oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
we're going in order.
So with the education piece, the students that are riding the bus, and they get bus passes through the school district, or, because I know you said the neighborhood,
The ones that are, there's two different levels of service that we're currently doing. If a student isn't eligible for bus transportation through the school, then they have the ability to buy our product for, I believe, a monthly pass is $20, a semester pass is $35, and a year pass, which is the entire school year, is $80, which is a lot of money. And believe me, we're going to keep pushing. That's half of what it was last year. We're going to keep pushing that price down. If you are eligible for busing based upon where you live, they just use their school ID to ride on the buses that are for that.
And Mr. Michael, can you add to that? There's also an app.
yeah,
Yes.
there's an app that has all the transportation and all the routes in it. There's no route that goes to Heights, which is this district's high school. There's no route out there. And to add to that, they have bus passes through the school.
Yes,
We get
the
bus
problem
passes
that
through
Heights has is that they don't have enough buses to service the kids. So So we're helping with that. There's a couple pockets of areas where they just can't, they don't have enough drivers to do it, enough buses to do it. So we're gonna be sending buses into those areas, diverting them off of a route. But that touches on a very good point, what you just said. It's not about, yeah, you always have a component of individualized service, but we need a bus service that it does go by the school. I mean, what's the purpose of having bus service if you don't go by places of employment in schools? I mean, that's what puts people on the buses, is a kid to be able to walk a block to a bus stop, wait there, even if they're paying a fare. I always paid a fare when I was a student. My parents weren't eligible for free busing, but you should be able to walk a block, wait, and that bus should be able to go right by your school. I mean, that's what public transportation is where I come from. You don't abandon those areas. There's no reason why a bus doesn't go by Heights.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes, sir.
Well, I know there's schools that have bus passes that parents don't know about. My kid's school had free bus passes in the office that literally sat there for 2 years, and no kids use the bus passes. So they have bus passes that are stickers that kids can put on their ID,
Right.
and you give them this one for the semester, or per semester the kids can get them. And a lot of parents don't know this, so
that.
parents can get rider passes to go on trials with their kids as well, you know, so they can see the route and they can feel comfortable with it.
I think we finally have, this year is the first time, we at least have the word out there. The question is, how do we keep getting it, because not everybody has a smartphone, not everybody is on the internet, not everybody's, if you're a single mother and you have 3 kids, you don't have time to be searching for that stuff. It needs to be going out in flyers, it needs to be going out in schools, and we're slowly working upon that. We have an education person that's supposed to go to the schools and make sure that the administrators all know. So it's going to be a work in progress, and that's another area where education to us is, if a parent says, hey, I have 3 kids at this school, I was completely unaware of it, call me, let us know, we'll get somebody out there, figure out how to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're on the right track, because you definitely need to start some conversations, and ongoing regular conversation about who uses the bus and where it's going. Schools and employment, well, we're conscious we don't have a lot of economic development or employment in this neighborhood, so they have to go outside of here to get to wherever they're gonna go to work. So I think you have an excellent opportunity in here to collect some of that data. Your drivers, you know, you've got routes that are established right now, your drivers take them to pick them up someplace and they drop them off at another designated place. But if you were to take, even for a couple of weeks, a survey and get them 3 or 4 questions of people who ride your bus and say, what's your age, where are you going, and how often in here? So you'll know where these people are going. So once you collected that data, you can start the conversation with us. You're talking to a group in here, if you ask anybody, most people in this room to raise your hand, if you ride the bus once a week, when's the last time you rode it?
There would be a hand raised.
Most people don't ride the bus,
Right.
they ain't got a clue.
I usually start, I've known the answer enough, I think, the first 3 sessions, the first 3 public meetings I ever went to for any organization, I would ask how many people here, not including the queue line, ride Wichita Transit. And I never had one person raise their hand, so I don't even ask the question anymore.
You need to get that information from the people who use it, and use it on a regular basis and collect that data, so when you come to these boats or these ideas where the routes need to go, then you know. You can't go on the exception of 4 or 5 people out of 20 in this room that use the bus. That's when you're saying that 2 or 3 on your bus is all you see. That's them 2 right there. Okay.
I'd like to just ask you, what can we do? What can we do to help this program?
You can get the word out into this district and this community, especially the poor community, that we want to make a difference. The bus system wants to make a difference. It's not gonna abandon them ever again. And how do we do that? How do we start a discussion that should have started 50 years ago?
It won't start with this group.
No.
You gotta get to the people who use it. And if you got 10 people who go out here to work up here on Rock Road, where they go in the same business or 4 or 5 businesses together, then you talk to those business people and those people who ride it, see what works best for you, what hours, what everything. And so you'll start to know how to develop that. But to ask us in this room who never ride the bus and all of us drive where we going in here, you're not gonna get accurate enough information.
Young lady right here.
Yes, my name's Teresa Smith, and I think, you know, you have all these advertisements on the buses,
Mhm.
and they have to be put there by, whoever advertises their business, right? Why can't you have the news, put it out there in the news that you have this, or this is going on? Word of mouth will get you so far, but public relations
Yes.
gets you further.
And one of the things too, I was very disappointed in the advertising process, period, at Wichita Transit. It's administered by an outside source. But we used to take our buses, and the buses would go, you had certain buses that go in certain neighborhoods. Certain drivers drive certain buses in certain neighborhoods. You go to merchants, into stores, into churches, and you donate the ability, those cost nothing inside the bus. Outside, different story. Inside, you can have so many community engagement or community activities that are advertised in there. And that's what gets, again, it's an information source. That's what people ride the bus. Yes.
My biggest thing is, I like riding the bus, I grew up riding the bus. The way the passes are distributed, and the way you have to do a pass for 30 days, I would love to buy a bus pass, but I don't ride the bus every day. And I want an unlimited ridership, so that if I buy the bus card, it's got 30 punches or whatever, 30 scans on it, where I can ride it at my convenience
And not lose.
and not have to be limited
That's right.
to a time span.
In Pennsylvania, our most popular and lowest priced product was a 20 ride pass. Because you could buy it, you could ride the bus 2 times this week and wait 3 weeks and ride it 2 times again.
And
But
6 months from now, I can
And
ride
6
it
months,
again.
and what was nice about it, it was significantly discounted. I think our fare was $1.65, I think it was $1.25. So it was a way for people to save money, but it's not like the clockers ticket. I don't understand these passes that are time-based. It should be right.
That's my issue.
I think your priorities are excellent. This discussion is terrific. I grew up riding buses in London, and you can go anywhere on a bus. You might have to wait in the rain, but it comes. And that's what's important. I wondered if you were ever thinking about perhaps a greener program like hybrid buses.
No, we're
Electric
going
buses.
electric. The federal government has released millions and millions and millions of dollars for electric bus. And you go after money, that's what they want. So out of, I think it's a total of $12 million of no emission grant money, that we've captured $6 million of that so far. And we, hopefully we'll get the other 6 to get the full 12 that we've asked for. But that's how you maximize what the federal government says is important, is you take advantage of that. So hopefully we can find programs that are targeted on the operational side for inner city districts that we can put service here too. Because the electric bus is nice, but again, that's a project side from capital. But yes, we are gonna be going to electrification.
The bus route, you know, I think everybody used to take the bus too, but now the schedules are so confusing. We used to be able to take a bus heading south, link up with another bus heading east and west. Now you catch a bus, you gotta go all the way downtown to the transit center, and you gotta go catch another bus, go back where you come from. So, you know, I can stand, that kinda turned me off too, because I can't link up and get a transfer no more, because I gotta go all the way downtown to the transit center and take a bus and go all the way back to another town, go back to the transit center, and come, you know, that's too much. Used to be a link up, you know,
That's right.
transfers.
On
Now
routes,
it's so confusing now.
and you should be able to get on the bus and buy a transfer.
Yeah.
The eliminated transfers, you should be able to get on a bus, put $2 in the fare box, and it would get you to where you wanted to go, and transfer on it, and they took that all away. But going to a transit center, that's 1970s.
I know, my brother, he's a bus driver in Seattle, and he got the electric buses. They've been having that for years and years. And every time he comes to Wichita, he make a point to laugh at our transit center. He loves to come to Wichita, and he's a bus driver in Seattle. He loves to come to Wichita and make a mockery of our transit center.
That's a very old process, so.
Yeah, we're back in time. We never changed. You know, we still, like you said, in the 60s and 70s, not in the transit, but in our whole city is kind of like stagnated, you know, stuff. So, like I said, the bus turned me off on all that. It just turned a lot of people off, because I want to transfer all the way downtown.
You wanna go from where you are to where you wanna be, in the most direct line as you can, not to have to go downtown, get onto a transit center, get
And
into
that
another
takes all
bus.
day long, so probably won't ride the bus all day long,
Right.
just go across town.
Exactly.
All right, we're gonna take two more and then we're gonna move forward, cause he's gonna stay here after our other announcement, and we can have some individual conversation if we're okay with that. So Jane,
So I'm a little bit of a nutcase about walkability, getting to the bus, waiting for the bus, making sure, and I hope you'll join efforts to make sure that there are painted crosswalks to and from bus stops. And wouldn't it be wonderful if there was shelter
Yes.
for a bus stop?
Your street side amenities are very, very important, but also the walkability. There's millions of dollars of federal transit administration funding for what's called streetscaping. Now, that sounds like you're gonna plant trees and those types of things, but that's not the case. If I can make the case that we have a neighborhood that's here, and we have an amenity as in a shelter that is here, and between here and here is dark, is not well lit, it is not walkable, it doesn't have accessible crosswalks. That's what, again, that is what the projects that the federal government wants, to make that, again, they call it streetscaping because that's pretty, but it's actually made to make that connectability safe. Sidewalks and everything, like I say, curb cuts. I mean, right now I drive around and even my wife, she says, what the heck is a bus pole doing there? There's one right over here, it's sitting in the middle of somebody's lawn. Well, who's gonna get on a bus there? And why would you do it anyway? If you're handicapped or you have a walker or you're in a wheelchair, there's no accessibility there. At least I know that our drivers are smart enough now that they know what people do. I mean, we went from having a flag stop, which that's where I came from. Flag stop means that your riders go where it has to be safe, but it is the closest place that a bus can pick someone up. They took that all away a couple of years ago and said, oh no, you gotta go to that pole. But then you put the pole in the middle of somebody's front lawn. I don't get it. I really don't understand that. I've never seen that. That's not really allowed. You go back east, it has to be accessible. It has to be where someone in any physical condition who's riding public transportation can get on the bus there. And that's not the case here, but we.
Yes, about 7 months ago, when my truck got stolen, I live off of, like 11th and, North Glendale, and so I'm just a block off of Oliver. So I have a choice either to walk 7 blocks up to 13 to catch the bus, or either walk 7 blocks down to Central to catch the bus. And so, and I'm not a good kind of really walker, so if I was to catch, and I wanted to catch the bus, but if I was to take and walk, and I didn't make it in time to catch either bus, then.
You got a whole hour before the next one comes by.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes, and I guess just what but yeah.
Ms. Dan?
Are you willing, most of the people here have neighborhood associations and stuff, will you come to neighborhood associations?
Yep, just let me know where to be and what time to be there. I'll be there.
Awesome, thank you again. And I know you all now see why I am so excited to have him as our transit director. He is the same way talking to me in private as he is today. And I appreciate that, because everything we talked about as far as our service, he said that to me privately, and now he's saying it to you publicly. So that's one thing I definitely appreciate about him. So real quick, we are going to, I made a change and didn't write it down. Father Billinger will give you an update on what's going on with Holy Savior, so you all know there's some construction going on. We'll let him give you an update.
Yay.
Well, I feel very honored to be invited to speak to you for just a few moments. I just had intended to attend the meeting so I could kind of catch up on what's going on in the community. But Holy Savior is a school that has moved several times. We moved the school in 2004 to the Magdalene site because the school building at Holy Savior was so poor And the architects that came to give an evaluation said the education process is suffering because of the quality of the building. So we moved to the Magdalene building when, the big church was taken down by the city. We were there for 4 years. Now we're at 15th and Oliver, and our school is doing very well. We have 175 children this year. Children of any faith tradition is welcome to attend Holy Savior School. The makeup of our school is probably 90% of our children are African, American, African children, a few Latino kids, a few Caucasian kids, and as I said, children of any faith tradition are welcome to attend our school. In fact, 66% of the children who attend our school are from the Pentecostal tradition, Church of God in Christ tradition. So we're going to kind of mount some advertisement about trying to get the children from our community near Holy Savior to come to our school. We try to make a scholarship available to each child. We have a minimum kind of enrollment cost. We negotiate that with every family, and so if you're interested, but we hope that the school will be open in August of 2019. Pray that the rain stops. We're really excited about the new school because we wanted to come back home for many, many years. And so we're coming back home again. And any questions that I might try to answer?
I have one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
How many black people do you have hired over there to do their work?
The vast majority of our staff are African American people.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about all the design and construction.
Well, we went through Shaker Johnson, Cox and Fry. I did reach out to other communities, architects, but Shaker Johnson, Cox and Fry are doing the work at our parish. And the contractors are Donlinger and Simpson and Law Company. Those were contractors who bid on the project. But before the project began, I invited as many contractors in the city as possible to come to a meeting at the bishop's office. Yes?
So what is the curriculum for those kids?
The curriculum is, it's an accredited school, Holy Savior's accredited, state accredited. We have a regular curriculum for the children. They do study elements of the Catholic faith. They come to Mass once a week, but it's a regular school curriculum that's accredited.
Okay, my concern for you is so given the community they're coming from, is financial literacy going to be something that's going to be high dominance for them to learn, for them to progress? Because to get out of their situation, they need to understand how to control money. So that's the best solution for them in the environment that they're in right now.
We take a lot of children who are far behind their counterparts in their public school experience. And we have a process where we try to advance a child 1.3 years every year in literacy and other subjects. And we feel that we're sometimes very successful because when the children catch up after a few years, they often go back to their other schools.
Can we add to that too? Ubuntu Village, don't forget to talk about
Ubuntu
Ubuntu
Village.
Village. Ubuntu Village is at Holy Savior, and Priska Barnes through Storytime Village is also there too.
I was just wondering about Chautauqua Street. I noticed that whole street over there is completely gone now, and so you don't have any access on that street whatsoever, right? Okay, I was just curious about that. My grandson has been going to Holy Savior since preschool up there, and he's doing really, really well up there, and he loves it. And an event I was at just prior to here, you had your school choir was over there performing for Storytime Village.
I wanted to go to that this morning, but we had Mass at 8 o'clock. So thank you.
And they get to meet Tay Diggs.
And they got a chance to.
I know.
Darn. Family engagement, community engagement program that Holy Savior had. I mean, like this event this morning, it was like $50 a ticket, and a lot of our students in that community could not, their families wouldn't be able to attend that. And I don't see Holy Savior in a lot of our
mention that to Dr. Shropshire.
Do you know of any that are current, like, any kind of connections or programs you do with any community?
Is that for, you wanna answer that? Okay, Ms. Janice wants to help answer that.
Yeah, every February, we have Arts and Technical Art at Wichita State University. The Holy Savior has been about the last 3 years. And, Congressman, Ron Estes sent a personal letter thanking all of the students who were involved in the show. And Holy Savior was our largest participant. So we do that every February. So if you have students that are involved in art, then let the, principal know.
And we just gonna shout out, we know Dr. Shropshire personally, they were the Juneteenth parade, she goes to any public events they can, they perform at Barnes and Noble, and so the parents have to go to monthly or quarterly meetings. I have a niece who goes to the school too, so that's how, they are actively involved. I guess we just don't see it because of social media, you know, and each school is a silo. So until we keep talking to each school, we won't know what activities they have. But I'm proud of them. Yeah, the grandmother is okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this morning, Father. You guys are looking good. How is the school coming? You said you want to be open by 2019. And, I see a lot of dirt.
Well, we're trying to make the reason that you see a lot of dirt being moved is because we're trying to make everything without stairs and steps. In the former school, you had to go down 16 steep stairs into the cafeteria. And we wanted to avoid anything like that. And when I first came to Holy Savior in 2008, there was so much mold in the building that we actually had to take off a third of the building, and it just verified the fact that the building was very in poor condition. So we are going to really push hard to get the school up and running by the beginning of next school year. It's possible we'll be like maybe a week or two behind the other schools, but the goal is to really get moving on it once the weather becomes more favorable.
We have to make Ms. Bonsick the last question.
The building that I know Dr. Shropshire and our organization donates LRE McLaughlin. And I want to know what the building is gonna be used for, because one of our neighborhood associations, she's kind enough to let them meet there, and the other one wants to. Who owns that building? And will it be demolished? Will it be returned to?
The current building is on 15th and
Yes.
Oliver. We're actually trying to sell the building at this point in time.
So you do own it?
We do own it. Yes.
I interviewed her a number of years ago when I did the neighborhood paper, so I know her quite well. And we're gonna miss that, your participation in our community, Ken Martin.
Well, we hope by moving back to a location where the church is located, that our community, the Holy Savior community, we can grow stronger and then in many ways be more of a participant in that local community too.
But Ken Mar
Yes.
will miss you.
Yes, I appreciate you saying that very much. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right, we've got one more speaker, and then I will give you all some updates. We've got Miss Charlotte Smith here. She's gonna give you an update about Celebrate Day 366.
Dr. Smith.
My bad.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Greetings. Before I tell you about our event, I want to know how many of you know what the infant mortality rate is in Sedgwick County?
Third world.
Well, that's close. So, for African American infant mortality in Sedgwick County, 18.8 babies die each year per 1,000 births. And the infant mortality rate in Sedgwick County is overall is 7.4 infants die per 1,000 live births. And for the white community, it's 4.7 babies that die per 1,000 live births. So our African American babies are dying at almost 4 times the rate of our
baby deserves to live past their first birthday. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, yes.
Awesome. So what we've done is we have worked with the graduate fraternity and sorority chapters in the community to really come together and create this awareness around infant mortality. And so we have an event every year called Celebrate Day 366. And what that event is it celebrates babies that have lived past their first birthday, which is 365 days. And what we found out is that our community didn't even know what we meant by infant mortality. So we take this opportunity to bring together our community to educate them on what we mean by infant mortality and to also talk to them about the importance of fatherhood. But what we love most about the event is that each year we want to celebrate more babies living past that 365 days. So this event is not just for those that have babies, but any caregivers, whether you're aunt, grandmother, cousin, just a neighbor that is caring for a baby or is going to care for a baby, we want you to attend. And so this event is on October 6th. It's from 10:30 to 1:30 at St. Mark's United Methodist Church. Okay? And we would love, love, love for each of you guys to attend. And I want you to know that it's very important. And why is it important? Because every baby deserves to live past that first birthday. And in Wichita, we lost 3 babies last week. And 2 moms are possibly facing jail time because they slept with their babies. And so how do we stop this? We gotta bring everybody together for us, by us. It's our community, so let's take the lead and reduce infant mortality.
Did you say these mothers will be arrested because they
2 of
slept
them.
with their babies?
2 of them will possibly be charged.
You can't sleep with your baby?
There were other circumstances involved too. There were some other circumstances.
Yeah, but it is unhealthy to sleep with your baby. I'm guilty.
Lock her up.
We didn't hear that. We didn't. You was talking about somebody.
I'm guilty too.
You're doing an event on one day, so the other 364 days, how we get that message across?
So we work with the sororities and fraternities to create that awareness. So we have a Facebook page, we have other campaigns that we do. We also are trying to develop a fatherhood initiative, so we partner with other organizations to create the awareness. The event is the opportunity to bring everybody together and educate our community.
So what are we doing with the hospitals when they first being born? I mean, that's the first line of contact.
Okay, let me answer that one.
I've heard period of purple crying.
In Kansas, it is a state mandate that as a parent, when you give birth, you do not leave the hospital until you view a video about the period of purple crying. I actually used to facilitate this in the prison. So fathers will come home and be ready to understand why this baby is crying to avoid shaken baby syndrome. So in Kansas, you cannot leave the hospital until you view a video of how your baby cries, the best way to lay them on their side versus their back versus their stomach. And so that's a mandate, and you sign off and you take a video with you in Kansas. And it's called Period of Purple Crying, and you can Google it.
So it's talking about that infant mortality.
But
rate
also,
a little bit, right?
we do work with, so I am a professor at KU, and so we do work with physicians to really talk about what's happened with our infant mortality rate. We do interventions with those physicians, whether we use our medical students or ourselves, to really reduce that in the hospitals. But we do still have moms that sleep with their babies in the hospital.
And October 13th, you're also having a table at the community baby shower. There's information.
There's a community baby shower. So each year, 2 times a year, there's a community baby shower as well. But this is actually a community-based opportunity to really address and focus on African American infant mortality and to really create that awareness and also to celebrate those babies.
Hey, sadly enough, you lock up 2 or 3 of them, it'll have much more impact on the rest of them. I'm just saying.
Here first and then you.
I just wanted to say, I'm with the Wichita Black Nurses Association. And we do the community baby shower, so they do come and help, but we've been doing it now for many years. And, they have what they call the Healthy Babies Project. You might want to address that at the health department where they continually teach the moms.
Right, so the Healthy Babies program follows 250 parents a year, or up to 2 years, to their babies too. And they do home visits, so they go in and educate them about how they can take care of They provide resources, and they also get them to the the needed care. So there is other programs in the community. This just adds to it and brings all those programs together.
And Ms. Charlotte, I think the biggest thing we miss about the community baby shower is you walk away with a free sleep crib for your baby, no matter your income, if you've already delivered, if you have twins, you walk away with 2 sleep-free cribs.
Right.
That's the biggest component of this event, and so it's at the Boys and Girls Club, and there's flyers up front too.
So now Healthy Babies used to have a location off of Central and Oliver. and
It's
they're
at
not
the
there.
main, on 9th Street now.
They're on Ninth Street
Yes.
now. Okay, then my other question was how does this correlate with, I was gonna ask about teen pregnancy, and then also with the Purple Pride thing, has it effectiveness been looked at? Because I know it's been mandated for years, however, parents or mothers are just left in the room to watch this video, and if they actually pay attention or learn anything, it's not really assessed as far as maybe even having someone one-on-one discuss this with them, or, I mean, you just gotta have the baby.
It's a conversation.
Medication, you're wrong.
Right.
I mean, cause I didn't get the conversation, when I had my kids, they just said, watch the video and sign the paper.
I think that's what's happening. We now have one of our members, Dr. Finette Scott, Thornhill Scott, is a physician at KU now, and she actually is doing a quality improvement project to really assess the effectiveness of that among our mothers. So there is work going on, but this, I think the community baby showers really focuses on SIDS, and we want to focus on the overall well-being of the family. So the mom, dad, and the infant.
Okay, so how does it work with teen pregnancy part? You guys connected with that any with this?
Right, so it doesn't matter the age.
I mean, but is that like the main focus with our percentages of child deaths and things like that? Does it correlate with that age of birth?
Young mothers.
So most of the infant deaths happen in moms 20 to 39 years old.
And they do have teen programs in each school. Healthy Babies does go to schools. I actually used to work in North High, and I actually used to set it up too. So I'm a Jackie of all trades, y'all believe, trust me. I'm not making this up. But, yeah, so they have different teen programs in each school with the child daycare. They still have the elective class that you can take about being safe, whether you're a parent or not. Those classes are old home ec classes. They're still there in our schools. We have one here.
Yeah, I was just curious with the, one-on-one with the physician and then watching the video, is there some kind of assessment after that for?
I do not know. I'm not a practicing physician, in the hospital. So that would be a question for them. I just know that for 30 years, since 1996, our African American infant mortality rate has been high. And we've had these programs, and nothing has happened. Nothing has changed as it relates to our African American infants. And so what we need to do is come together as a community and work together. So this is an opportunity to bring everyone to the table and to really look at the well-being of the family and not just the baby.
I just wanted to clarify that an assessment from the actual parent that's watching the video.
No, I don't know that.
If they can comprehend or understand what.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Sorry.
When they do the community baby shower, they do a post and a pre-assessment sheet.
And that's a one-day pre and post. So I want to clarify that some of that information is lost throughout the year. So that's why it's important that we continue to create this awareness and to educate people in our community. Because one event, one program is not going to work. And this is an opportunity to bring everyone together. And it's October the 6th at St. Mark United Methodist Church from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And we also give away sleep sacks, which is cribs. We do tablets, we do baskets, we do gift cards. So each fraternity and sorority donates prizes to be given to each mom. And it's not just based on the infant. We have baskets for dad because we want dad to be involved. We have baskets for mom because we want mom to be healthy as well.
And I have a question. You're focusing on infant mortality. Are you wanting to begin to address maternal mortality?
Yes, so that's why we created the program, because the infant is only an infant for a year, right? And so if the mom is not healthy, then of course the infant is not gonna be healthy. So we want to start with the mom and the dad.
Ms. Trish, and then we're gonna
Maybe
make
you're getting to what my question is so we, 30 years, no progress on this very important issue. Do we have causality? Do we know what
increase that access and have that health care. So a lot of it is that there are a large number of unknowns, which could be a number of deaths, which is characterized differently. But we do want to focus on the mom and the dad and the infant. And this is the first program that focuses on the family. We want to stop that.
Do you have to make reservations?
No, you do not have to make reservations, you just show up. Anyone can come. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Let me correct myself again, doctors. All right, so I have just a few updates for you all. First, I'm sure you all heard the announcement for baseball.
Yes.
So there is a team that will be coming here. I know that we've been waiting for a while to hear. Huh? So there's a team that will be coming here. You all heard it's from New Orleans. So we'll be looking at that, and a lot of folks are excited about that announcement and the possible development on the west bank of the river. So that was Thursday. We've also had a meeting called Thursday as well with Westar Energy. So for you all who have seen some of the issues with the big poles going up, when that was presented, most of us thought those would be wooden poles again, and we are seeing those with concrete foundations with metal towers. So thanks to Representative Finney, who's here, we were able to get some attention on that. She did that work. We called a meeting, and Don Sherman and other representatives from Westar were here, and they answered questions from the community, made a commitment that they will reach out to those specific people who have poles in their yards. They can talk with Don and try to come to some resolution. He didn't promise that they would move the pole, but he said, you won't know unless you talk to them. And so, again, we want to encourage everybody who has a pole in their yard to reach out to Don and see what we can do about that. There was also a second commitment made that as phase 2 starts going up toward Innovation Campus, we're going to work on trying to get the word out better, and possibly, and I'm waiting on more confirmation, call a public meeting on that so that the community will be able to have some input. So in this presentation, we saw that sometimes the community is able to choose if they want that silver color or some brown color. And hey, these are the options that were presented. So at that meeting, you'll be able to talk to them about that, I'm sure. Again, there are different layers of issue here. I am one who will always encourage you to vote.
Amen.
And
Thank
to
you.
talk to your elected officials about those policies. So some things the city can do, some of that state level, Representative Finney is always willing to talk to you. But we need to start figuring out where those loopholes are. If we care about how they can do things without our approval, we've got to go change that. And we only change that by engaging. So we're upset right now, but we have work to do.
All I want to know is, who do I sue over the reduction in value of my property?
So they talked about that at the meeting as well. I don't have a direct answer at the meeting. It seemed like.
Do I sue the city?
You
Who's
have to sue
responsible for putting that stuff up?
You have to sue the
No, Westar is a contractor.
No, it's Westar.
So hold on. Westar is an energy company. They just merged with another company. So if you sue, it would have to be the company.
No. Who in the city gave them permission to put those poles up?
So as I understand it, they didn't need city permission for that. They
They-
were upgrading their infrastructure.
It goes back decades, they gave them authorization to do that, and without even public notification, because they used existing, utility lines. That's what gave them the out, where they didn't even have to do a public notification, where they put it in the newspaper and have a public meeting. So that's how they got around it. And also, decades ago, it gave a private organization, a private company, the authorization to do in the
Who did it
domain
decades
on
ago?
private property.
It's
The state of
It's
Kansas.
the state of Kansas. This is why I'm saying.
Decades ago.
So this is why I'm saying it's important, one, to vote, know who your candidates are, and if they support things like that. And then we have to work on changing that law.
What they done in Riverside? What they put those poles on the Riverside?
If they, at this point, if they're upgrading their infrastructure and they keep the same route, they can do that.
But they won't do it in certain areas of town.
So the thing is, and so there's a lot of layers here. So one reason we're trying to work on improving or growing our neighborhood associations and so that communication's better. So in other areas where people have fought back, where that presentation happened, there were more people at the meeting, more people got upset and organized and fought back against it.
Kind of fait accompli. You can't get the horse out of the barn if the horse is already in eating the hay.
You can fight it, but again, you have to be organized, you have to know what you're fighting and go for that. So again, if we don't like it, we have work to do. We can be upset, I understand that, I don't like the way it looks, but at this point, are we gonna work and do something
It
about it?
reduced the value of my property by 50%.
I don't disagree with
It's the
that.
value of your neighborhood.
The whole neighborhood.
So the whole area looks different with those poles, but again, we've gotta get that stuff changed.
We have a hand.
Please let me give a little history.
Mr. McPhee, we got one more hand.
Well, and the article in the newspaper talked about that it
I
was
finally
cost
protocol.
prohibitive to go underground. And I think that smacks of disrespect to whose cost? You know, I mean, we're talking, how much those huge concrete poles cost? And let's get the actual numbers from them. Okay, what is the cost difference between putting it underground, where trees are not going to break it in an ice storm, where, you know, there's all sorts of benefits to going underground. And why did they get to make some calculation about costs that didn't involve community conversation? And I feel like that is someplace where we can avoid these ugly monoliths if we get them to respect the community and go underground.
It could win alleys.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely, there are options that they can consider, but we all want electricity, so they know they got us by shoulders.
So the hope is that at a public meeting, we can talk about that and get that actual number. So what's been presented is, it costs 8 times as much as what's presented now. This project upgrade, they said it's $25 million, so that would be $200 million they're talking about it would cost to put it underground.
But his
So we
property
can-
wouldn't be decreased.
Right, so we can ask about what that actual cost is and what it looks like. The other thing that they talked about was passing that cost down to the customer. So as we all have not liked our rate increases, right? So what they're saying is, if we really push for that underground method, and they have to invest $200 million, that's a rate increase that they're gonna cost recovery. That's what they were saying.
May I say something at this point?
Hold on.
As
I
an
wanna
old
give
guy,
every-
wait a minute.
I wanna
Wait a
give
minute,
everyone
wait a
an
minute.
opportunity to speak. You will have an opportunity as well. I never interrupt you while you were speaking. Right now, Ms. Trish is talking to me. When she gets done, I will come to you. I will. You are next. Trish, are you?
Well, the thing is that the federal government just gave them a big old tax decrease, big tax decrease.
Right.
And the school district sued, saying, you gotta give some of that to us. And hey, you just got a big tax decrease, why don't you take that into consideration when you are doing these underground calculations? That's
a conversation worth having. I agree. Mr. McAfee.
I want to give all of you a little history. The largest exit off of I-135 is at 9th Street. It's the only one that took the great huge right turn. It killed all of the black business along 9th Street, including the Dunbar Theater. I want all of you to put that in your minds for a minute. So when the expressway came down the canal route, it was the cheapest way. We had to move everything in McAdam Park, the tennis courts, the swimming pool. Now, we're running these poles, and when, I believe you when you tell me it's somebody, because I was trying to figure out how did they get easements. I heard nothing about anything being advertised for easements along hydraulic. I'm driving up and down trying to figure out what in the world is going on. And then I see the newspaper article yesterday morning where you got after them, and I appreciate what you did, believe me. The whole issue is, then I started driving around. I said, I don't know of any substation at 16th and Volusia. So I drove to 16th and Volusia. There are 2 large brown poles on the west side of 16th and Volusia. But then when you turn and go east on Volusia, everything on 16th Street, every building on the north side of 16th Street all the way to Hillside is boarded up, which means they're talking about putting some kind of something at that location. Then they're also talking about another one at Wichita State. If you recall, a whole bunch of things have been bought off of 17th Street across from Wichita State. I work on these kind of projects all my life. They don't happen overnight. This stuff has been going on for years.
Man.
With no respect for this community, with no respect for our elected officials. And all of a sudden, because we are who we are, and we want the cheapest route, if it happens to be in your neighborhood, that's your problem. It ain't our problem.
And the hell was your property value?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, our property values went down when I-35 went through. Our businesses were all lost. There is not one business left on 9th Street, not one left on 9th Street that existed before that road came through. It is us who have been suffering for all these years. The appraisers in this town down appraise every piece of property in our neighborhood. Try to sell one of your houses and ask what the appraisal is. You'll find out it's almost nothing. The other thing is that absolutely amazes me, the banks are in collusion with them because the banks don't loan any money in the neighborhood for commercial or residential. When I was president of the NAACP, both years, I asked for the response for loans. Fourth National Bank did not make one loan in that 2 years in the neighborhood. The last time we were at this meeting, I said, do not leave him downtown by himself. Don't do that. Don't do that. He needs our help.
Man.
And I'm begging you, give him the help he needs.
Well, you know, I didn't grow up here in Wichita, but I've been here since '77. But I didn't know about like how they did the 9th Street exit and all this. But anyway, probably now, again, 2 months ago, I'm going to be 60 in December. I never, thank the Lord, had a ticket. I was going up the ramp on 9th Street, and I don't know, the highway patrol, and I don't think it was the job, but anyway, I'm going up the exit slow to get on, and he pulled me over. And he said he pulled me over because, well, I already kind of knew about my tag. You know, the tag was right, but my sticker that my truck got stolen, I didn't get a chance to put it on my truck because it got stolen when it expired. So I put it on my tag, that was my truck sticker, but I was gonna get my tag. And you know, but like I'm just saying, you know, I don't care if it was me or anybody else, and he's right there on 9th Street, it's gonna be probably 80%, probably maybe the blacks in there, getting up on there, and gonna get stopped, don't have no insurance, don't have no driver's license, because I asked them, you know, for one, why you pulled me over, you told me don't worry about it. Then for two, he said something about, yeah, I do this all the time, you know, so, wow.
So I would recommend that.
So, you know, again, why, you know, you're talking about those big poles, because I was wondering too. And so, anyway, talking about, it was announced in the newspaper, you know, I can't afford to, have the newspaper delivered to my house every day. So that's probably why.
It wasn't that. So what they did was they came to the district advisory board, they talked to the council member, which is my predecessor, and then they came to neighborhood associations. They didn't put it in the paper because they didn't have to. So they just came out to the community, to those meetings.
And they did go door to door to each homeowner.
Yeah.
And they notify each homeowner versus the land versus the homeowner, so if you're a renter versus.
They only talked to the homeowner where they were gonna put the post. They didn't talk to the neighbors about the post.
So Don has committed to going to tenants now, so if you rent, he'll talk to you too if there's a pole. For your first issue though, I would recommend calling the highway patrol. You can file a complaint, so I've had an issue with highway patrol before. I had a highway patrolman pull me over, on the highway, he said my tent was too dark, which legally I can have 20% in the back. My front windows were 35%, but he tried to cite me. He hit my vehicle, because he was mad that I started saying some things back to him. My rights, I told him I had rights. So I filed a complaint, and they told me he was reprimanded for that. So I would recommend that you reach out to them. It's nothing that WPD can do, but if you file that complaint, again, I will always say, if you have an issue, file a complaint, because that's a paper trail. And if not, you'll have an officer who might be doing some things, and folks are worried about it, if there's no paper trail, so they seem exemplary.
Exactly.
You don't wanna do that. So if there's an issue, file a complaint, and oftentimes they'll work with you and let you even talk to the officer.
Okay. Thank you.
The second floor of Sedgwick County covers Sedgwick County Sheriff's and the Highway Patrol. You can file a complaint, and if you know what date to take the ticket and file a complaint, because as Brandon said, documentation leads to, because if, you may not see a result, but if it happens to you, and it happens to me, and it happens to her, and none of us complain, they have no paper trail. And so, once you, and I have filed a complaint at Sedgwick County because of a highway patrolman, and they dismissed the ticket. So it's always good to fight it if you feel it's not fair.
Mr. Campbell, then I have 5 more updates to give, and then we just open it up.
I ran for elective office in 2012, and I got my butt handed to me in a sling. One of the reasons was that I heard anecdotal evidence. This person or this person or this person would say something, and they would tell a story. It was an important story, and it was important because it happened to that person. The problem that I believe that we're dealing with, whether it's here, or in zone 67206 or 67212 or someplace else, is that we have people like Gail, and this isn't a mutual admiration society. We have people like Gail and Brandon who are elected officials who care. But sometimes we forget to support them. We have to provide them with documentation. We have to provide them with the opportunity to make a change. What Mr. McAfee said, I've fought this thing in my mind for 47 years since I moved here in 1971. We're finding out now that something happened in your neighborhood, or something's happening in my neighborhood. I live a little ways away. But you know what? It's happening now, but it was planned years ago. Mr. McAfee has hit the nail on the head with that. He's right, 100% right. And everybody in here who's made these comments is 100% right. It happened to you. Gosh, that doesn't seem important when you're talking to the corporate structure, but it is. But when you tell Gail Finney, or Rita Fausett-Doe, or me if I'd have been elected, or somebody on the city council, or somebody on the city commission, we have a problem. We want you to come to this meeting. We want you to be there. We elected you. We can get you out. And if we can get past the corporate money, the PATs, we can win elections, and we can get more people like Gail Finney, and more people like Brandon Johnson. So Mr. McAfee doesn't have to stand up and say, what the hell happened 30 years ago? Because they're on it right now. And I appreciate it. No, I promise you. Once I get started, I never stop. So I'm going to stop it. I want to say that I have great faith in the ability of voters to elect the right people. And when they elect the right people, people like Mr. McAfee and others can make plans now for 50 years down the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. So I'll fly through these, but I saw a few more hands. So neighborhood associations, I have started sending monthly updates to neighborhood associations. I try to send it the first 5 days. Sometimes I get a little busy. But with that, we try to get what big things are coming up for the month, events, votes on the council, things like that. So neighborhood association presidents get those. I encourage them to send it to their members and talk about it at their meeting. We have like 24 active neighborhood association in District 1, so I don't get to everyone every month. So hopefully those will serve as in my absence when I'm not there. Thursday, we had a conversation on violence here in District 1. We were at the center. The center is a new facility built by Isis Church. Pastor Van, they are amazing. When we called them, they just said, yes, and what do you need? And they provided popcorn and snacks. It was more than 150 people there. We were planning on 100. So people showed up, and it was a different type of format. It wasn't a forum, it wasn't a panel discussion. Literally, we had round tables out, 7 people to a table, and we talked about the issues. We talked about community, what does crime look like in your community, what are some solutions, any extra comments, and we're gonna keep that data going, and we're gonna meet quarterly. So right now, LaShonda Garnes with Wichita State University is gonna help us compile that data. We're gonna report it out. The community at that meeting said they wanted to meet again before Christmas. They had an option before Christmas or after. I was proud to see everyone wanted to before Christmas because this is important. So we're gonna keep this conversation going in that same style, us coming together, all different types of people. We reached out to victims of violence, we reached out to gang members, former and current. There were 2 current gang members there. We didn't tell everybody that, but they were there. We had law enforcement there, we had fire there. And just folks who cared, different organizations, Real Men, Real Heroes, Boys and Girls Club. Everyone was there talking about this one issue that's affecting our whole city. And some of the stats were interesting. For all those who have this misinformed view of District 1 and how bad we are, out of the 38 homicides, only 5 were in District 1. And so when we push back on that with real information, our district is just like everyone else. So we're not bad like some people say. But it was a great conversation. I was proud to see so many people come together. Again, we planned for 100. There was about 100. I want to say 60, but I'll say more than 150 was there. We kept bringing out tables, and it was a great conversation. You got a question?
Would you give the name of the church again?
IASIS Church. It's on 11th and Minnesota. So you go over there and check out the center. It was great. Giselle?
Is there a way for us to like advertise those numbers on Facebook and different things of that sort, to where there's more people that see that it's not this area, that's just this, because a lot of times, like on campus, lately I haven't heard so much, but there are people who are like, oh, this area, and I'm like, you don't even live here. Like, I've lived here for so long, and like, and so I feel like really pushing those numbers out to the people and letting them know, like, we ain't the only area that is, and these are our numbers.
Yes, so we will do that on social media. I'm also gonna start inviting churches and businesses and these different neighborhood associations to those meetings. Because one thing I found with the community garden we had over on 11th and Green is when we invited folks from outside this community that would come up in a Mercedes-Benz or a Lexus, and they would say, this is the bad part of town. And they would hang out with us for a few hours at the garden and see people walk by and say hello and offer to help. And even somebody who might have been drinking a little bit still, hey, how's it going? Love what you're doing. It changes the mindset because they see that this area is just like everywhere else. We might be a little bit poor, but we're still great people. You're not gonna get robbed. And I had someone who told me if they stood on 9th and Grove, within an hour, they'd be shot or robbed. So we walked over to 9th and Grove and we hung out. And I said, I guess if you get shot, I'm gonna get shot. And we stood there for a little bit and they saw it was great. It was a great place to be. And they understood also that things I was saying last year, and I still say, we need to invest more in this area. They saw that. And luckily, we've got 9th Street being redone right now, but they looked and said, why is this parking lot sand? Why isn't this area being invested in? What's going on down the street? So we can invite more people in to push back on that, because you're not gonna get shot. You're not gonna get stabbed. You'll be all right. And actually, I tell this story, I'm getting off track, but the only time I had my car broke into and something stolen was when I moved out west.
What?
And when I was younger, I had rims, I had the 18s, I had my tent, I had my sound system in there. Was never messed with. I parked over here, I walk around, nobody messed with my car, but I get out to the west side, and within a month, somebody broke in, took my subs, my CD player. I was like, man, I need to stay back over where I'm at. Just a little story. Let me run through these. I also wanted to talk about REAL. So I think I've said this before here. Race, Equity, and Leadership. Wichita is one of 6 cities that has that technical assistance from the National League of Cities. That card you have in front of you is kind of the first step we're taking to engage the community. And it's a question that Mayor Longwell actually came up with. What does racial healing look like to you? And that's the one question on the survey on the website. When you go answer that, we're gonna collect that. If you're on Nextdoor, I wanna encourage you to look up that post and look at the comments. The comments will tell you the work we need to do here in Wichita. And those comments are not good. And there are people from points of privilege talking about how we are a post-racial society and a lot of other stuff I won't say here, but it's on there and it's public and we're not gonna delete it because I want everybody to see the work we need to do in this city. We are not past that. So, our committee continues to meet. Pretty soon, we're gonna roll out a community engagement piece for two reasons. One, as a bigger update to the community, and two, to hold us accountable. So if we say we are here in this area, Mr. McAfee's always brought up contracting levels with the city. If we're at a terrible position, and I believe we probably are, I haven't seen the data yet, it's not done, but we'll put that out there. This is where we're at. And if we're still here next year, you know who to point the finger at. And I'll even take that. Point the finger at me. I'm an elected official, so if we do not change that, that's my fault. But we're gonna put that out there, so as a community, we can work on healing, actual equity, and moving forward here in Wichita, because there are some issues we need to work on. All of our departments are participating. We've had a lot of great help from our police department, looking at arrest rates and areas and things like that. So all of that will be coming out soon. I just wanted to let you know that. Please participate in that survey and give it to folks so we can have a broad view of answers. I think we're even gonna do some videos. So our community meeting is gonna be pretty cool. Some people will probably be upset on both sides, but it's gonna be real, because we have to really deal with this issue and not just talk about it and not do anything. So that's where we're going with real. That meeting will probably be in October, but we haven't finalized those dates. And then lastly, I just really wanna thank our Park and Rec staff for this summer. So I don't know if you all knew, we did a lot this summer to start trying to address not only what was going on in the community with violence and kids not having something to do. Our rec centers have really performed very well here in District 1. And specifically, Lynette Woodard and McAdams, we did a summer eating and rec program that we wanted to get going because our young people always say they have nothing to do. So Lynette Woodard was open from 5 to 7 on Wednesdays, open gym, free to kids, just come in, have fun, play basketball, game room. McAdams was 8 to 10 on Friday nights. And McAdams regularly had about 40 to 50 kids show up. Lynette Woodard picked up towards the end with about 40 kids. But this is something we're gonna extend for the next couple of years. Some of the Hyatt Fund money that we had left is gonna pay for the next 2 years of that. And we're programming that now, but our staff did an amazing job getting that going. The kids appreciated it, and we wanna make sure we continue to grow that. So I would definitely wanna thank them for that. And then lastly, before I open up for Q&A, all of our young ladies who helped us get set up today, as always, we appreciate them.
We get a hand to the babysitter in the back. Thank you. Open the door again, Giselle, so she can hear her clap. Hand clap.
Child care provided. Put it, child care provided.
Now, her resume, put that on her resume.
Oh, I forgot to acknowledge Ben Blankley with USD 259 School Board this year. I should have did that. So he's been very responsive to issues in the community when we were talking about, or they were talking about fencing in some elementary schools. He was really quick to respond. He shared information here. He's gonna try to attend as much as possible. And then on social media, he always shared about what was going on at meetings, updates from that. So thank you, Ben, for doing that. And I guess, any other questions about anything that was said that I didn't give you a chance to ask a question about?
I'll give a little school board update if you'd like.
One second, let me get a few questions and then we can do that.
Are they gonna put those poles down 21st Street?
That's not a part of the new plan, though. So the next phase 2 is up to Innovation Campus. I don't remember those. Do you remember those?
Yes, it goes from Mossman down to Volusia, up to 16, from 16 to Volusia over to Gentry, then up to Innovation Campus. And there's 57 of them.
In my neighborhood?
Everything is between 9th Street and 17th Street.
But not
57 of them.
Everything
So again, I'm working with Don to make sure we have a public meeting about that.
Over the whole city.
I need to see the
Make
plan.
Because the WSU, I know.
We'll ask him.
Mr. Barnes?
So this isn't really covered, but maybe kind of give a real quick update. You publicize all the time your city council district one improvement grant program application. And so I know that that money was, a portion of that money came from the Hyatt, and we set aside, can you tell me how much?
It was $124,000.
$124,000. And that was started last year. Is there a timeline? And
Until the money runs out.
Until it runs out, so we go next year, next year, next year.
That's why I keep telling people to use it.
So what percentage have we used of it?
So, we have had 4 rounds of the review committee to look at applications, and don't quote me on it, I have the number in my office. We haven't spent 50,000 yet, not even 50,000, because you get up to 1,500. So if we've seen 40 cases or 50 cases times 1,500, somebody put out their calculator and do that math. And so that's where we're averaging about approving 10 to 12 cases per month right now. As they come in, we have a month. Thank you. We're about 60,000 right now.
So I still got a chance to put my application in?
So,
It's kind of 2 parts. So I need to kind of know the information in here, because, you know, I've pulled up your guidelines and for application and requirements and stuff here. So here's what I look at in here, in a lot of our neighborhoods in here, and most of this is for homeowners and meeting certain income guidelines and stuff of this nature. But if you look around in a lot of our communities, probably a lot of the communities up and down here and around there, probably 60 to maybe 70% of them now are landlords or renters instead of homeowners in here. So, and most of the homeowners in there are probably seniors and stuff of this nature who've been in the community for a long time. And so I'm glad that some of those are getting to take advantage of it in here. But some situations like these neighborhood associations, I don't think it gives enough leeway for neighborhood associations or groups to apply, because you tie it into individuals and homeowners in here to take advantage of some of that and do some things that they can selectively do and help within their neighborhood. I haven't seen that yet. So I'm just saying to make it more advantageous in here, because you got a lot of landlords. So just give you a quick example of money and a landlord. If the landlord got a property, he gets $500 a month for it in here, and that's, let's say, about $6,000 a year. You got about property tax, about $1,200, insurance, maybe about another $800 in here, repairs and stuff of this nature, another $1,000 in there. His profit level maybe $2,000 to $3,000 in there. So a lot of times.
Let me stop before you, let me answer that one, because let me answer that one. I wanna answer that part. With Councilmember Levanta Williams, the goal was to look at where grants were not available. Homeowners, landlords have an opportunity through the city of Wichita to apply for a loan already. So this money was designated where no other money could be used. So that's why landlords don't qualify. Community service projects, let's give several examples. We have 2 neighbor association presidents here who have applied and getting ready to apply, and Uptown already got theirs. Community gardens, finishing a sidewalk in front of in front of 2 neighborhood centers have been done, and we're coming up, that one's coming up. So neighborhood associations do know they can apply. I've sent the email to them numerous times, and it stays in the District 1 newsletter and goes on Facebook, and anyone can ask me individual questions.
I think you need to re-emphasize that in your letter. When you send that out here, and they pull up the guidelines, it talks about individuals and homeowners. You got about 4 things, and it talks about those. I would like to see our neighborhood association be able to apply for some of that money in here, even $1,500, that they can maybe go out here and work with some of these yards and be cleaning up or buildings. And some of these are people in here who, even in our neighborhoods, they don't meet the income guidelines in here, but they need work done.
The special project has to go to your neighborhood association, so if all of you are here, take an application back to your next meeting and come up with a special project, and I'm welcome to come to the meeting and brainstorm with you before you even complete the paperwork of if it qualifies. It has to be a one-time special project that can sustain,
So
be
I
sustained.
think we need to kind of give some of the neighborhood association some of those guidelines. If you say, okay, an individual can apply for $1,500, so what is the neighborhood, if a the neighborhood pick up a project, is that $1,500 for that one project?
Correct.
And no more for the
Correct,
neighborhood?
that's it. We also have two other neighborhood associations, they have neighborhood association pillars or signs, and that needed rehabbing, and they applied and they also were granted. Yeah, so we've had about 6
You might
neighborhood
wanna push that a
associations.
little bit more, because this lady here, I don't know if she
We
knows
take,
about
she's
it.
already applied, so I'm gonna stop, cause you're speaking for her, she's already taken care of
We're
hers.
actually over time, so we're trying to get more questions in, but on that, we definitely are willing to go to neighborhood associations and talk to them about it.
That might be good because somebody in our neighborhood did check into applying to get some kind of a, he lives on 12th Street.
His was a safety issue, I know about that one, and we did brainstorm that one, so, that was, I'll tell you that off screen.
Well, just
I don't
give
wanna
more
put that person's personal
clarity.
business out.
Special.
Ms. Ricky Coleman
You
came to
don't
me.
give enough to that.
Well, we actually talk about it at every meeting, we just got to get out a little more. But you can help me with that, so I know you're gonna help me with Northeast
Send
Heights,
these
right?
out, and so if you put those out there and they put them in their newsletters, Special Vision, I think you get more input from the neighborhood.
It's
What
in
they-
newsletters, thank you, it's in newsletters, I get, every person emails me their newsletter, District One, and it's in there, I'm getting
Don't break
calls,
your
I'm
mind.
getting
Make sure
emails,
it ain't in there.
it's in there.
It's in there.
Talk to Mr. Roseboro, you can get it in there.
It's in there.
It talks about the improvement, Brad, it doesn't tell about.
We can talk about that a little bit later.
I just only had wanted to say that, I am proud of IAC Center. I'm part of that, church that helped build and did that. I'm proud that they had that meeting Thursday, and, I was surprised about the turnout too. But I just wanted to say, when we were grouped off in our tables, and, it was a white guy that was sitting next to me. And so we just was talking, and, he told me that, he was from, Buffalo, New York, and he just moved here to Wichita. And he said he stays over on 11th and North Emporia, and he goes to WSU. And he said he is scared to death where he lives at, you know? And I'm looking like, I'm like, you're from Buffalo, New York, you're scared over there? Okay, but yeah, I don't know, but yeah, but he was scared to death, and, anyway, he just recently, I think a week or two, he said his bike already got stolen, and, he's scared, he's, yeah, and I'm the one that, the lieutenant that was there, the lady lieutenant that spoke, I gave her, cause he was so scared, he left before it got dark, cause he was too scared, his house was gonna get broken into, so he left his little note with me, so when I was reading it, I mean, he had on there like, the front, help, 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 help me, please, you know, cause he said he was scared to call the police, cause he don't want them knocking on the door and something's gonna happen to him, which we talked about that at the meeting too. But yeah, I mean, this guy was just help, help, help on his nose, and I'm looking like, man, is he, you know? I'm like, wow, he scared me, but I did pass on his information.
We appreciate it.
And I'm just glad, yes, I'm so glad that they're having those meetings for maybe people like him, you know?
So, do we have any more questions before we leave? All right, thank you all for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you guys.